Group 2 in ADPR 881 chose for its project to tackle the concept of the use of digital signage, specifically digital menu boards in a retail environment. In this case, a local scooters coffee shop, the only one of its kind utilizing this technology. Today's consumers, being much more tech savvy and aware than at any other time in history, nearly demand or have an expectation on retailers to provide some sort of immersive experience in their store. Many now utilize digital screens and interactive experiences to help provide that. Narrowing the focus of the research started with this advent of the digital age, and then the explosion of the availability and affordability of digital technology, like the displays and the computers and the content creation, down to experience advertising as a concept, and out of that, an entire industry called digital out-of-home media, and finally, two subsets of digital out-of-home, digital signage, and with this research, digital menu boards. So then the purpose of the study is to analyze how digital signage influences the customer experience and has a potential to influence purchasing habits. In reviewing the literature, the research takes into account everything from stimuli that is processed in our brains to how brands set up the atmosphere to affect the consumer to digital signage itself. And it clearly showed that there's a need for additional research, specifically in the retail space at the point of sale. And finally, the study fills a gap in the research that will benefit marketers of all kinds who use digital out-of-home with their clients, and brands that are looking to influence buying behavior and potentially affect sales. But more specifically, it will benefit a local advertising agency here in Lincoln, a regional coffee house franchise based out of Lincoln, and a local digital signage software company.
Which brings us to the beginning of it, a review of past and present literature, studies, and research pertaining to digital signage. Consumers no longer shop to obtain tangible goods. This process has become an experience and consumers expect to be entertained. Scholarly research has indicated that the atmosphere of the retailer can positively impact a consumer's shopping experience. A customer experience is no longer strictly evaluated by the friendliness of the sales clerk or staff. The event of shopping has morphed into so much more. Consumers are influenced by the product packaging, cleanliness and lighting of the store, the layout and display of products, even the number of touch points experienced at a retailer. Every atmospheric cue in the retail environment is conceptualized as stimulus and leads to a cognitive effect on the individual, which leads to a behavioral response. Consumers now want a multi-dimensional shopping experience that is calculated by customer satisfaction. After a thorough review of the relevant research related to digital signage, it revealed several subtopics that we could categorize a lot of the information into. The first of which being technology. A recent evolution in the retailer's fight for consumer attention is digital signage. Publicly placed flat screen monitors whose content consists of advertisements, community information, entertainment, and or news. The use of television screens in a retail setting is not new. Neither are special in-store promotional product displays. But the price of such items is finally at an affordable price for retailers to move in on the new wave. The second subtopic we've seen through this research was environmental and atmospheric effects. Simply put, the environment affects every aspect of a consumer's in-store behavior, from time and attention allocation to navigation and consumption amount. The next subtopic, understanding the human brain. People are information processors and they are engaging in this major task continuously. When stimuli are present, the consumer has a decision to make. The consumer can either react and engage with the stimuli or ignore the stimuli and perceive it as environmental noise. The ability to process all the information in a given environment is limited. To ensure the effectiveness of the stimuli, the retailer must consider the following: the information presented, colors used, size of screen, quality of imagery, quantity of screens utilized, location of screens within the retail space, use of graphics, static, or motion imagery. Each variable can influence a consumer either positively or negatively. Another subtopic revealed was point of purchase. According to the Point of Purchase Association International, in the United States, 70% of in-store decisions are made after consumers enter the store. Nearly all past studies confirm that point of purchase advertising is a powerful merchandising tool. Brands, retailers, agencies all have private studies that show the significance of prompting consumers once they are in the store. And last but not least, consumer behavior, another subtopic revealed. What a consumer sees upon a digital sign does not influence the featured product, but drives sales of the family of brands and the entire product category. Shorter messages deliver higher lift per unit of screen time, and the message receptiveness varies by time of day and day of week. In Burke's final conclusion of the behavioral effects of digital signage, he states, shoppers were most responsive to messages that relate to the task at hand. Which brings us to our purpose statement: to examine perceived effectiveness of a dynamic digital menu boards at point of purchase in a locally owned retail atmosphere, and furthermore, evaluating the promotional influence of signage with motion versus static imagery and how that affects sales trends. The goal of the study is to find if dynamic digital menu boards influence the promotion of an item or items. Our hypothesis: digital menu boards will capture the attention of consumers at the point of purchase, affect the purchasing decisions made at point of purchase, and overall influence the customer experience and incrementally affect sales.
Hi, this is Kelly, and I wanted to discuss our methods and instruments section for our semester research project. So to begin, we have to establish a setting for our research, and we chose to do the research in store at the Scooters on 56th and Yankee Hill, and we took a quantitative approach to evaluating our problem. So the reason that we chose a quantitative approach was because we felt that hard data would likely provide more clarity and apparent trends in consumer behavior, and quantitative data collection has a less likely influence on research bias during the administration of our instrument, whereas we felt if we took a qualitative approach, it would be easier for us to persuade or provide bias to those that were participating in our research. So to begin, we wanted to just get a better understanding of the participants that would be a part of this project. So what we did is we took the 5 zip codes surrounding Scooters, which is part of their target market, and did some research to better understand the trends, lifestyle choices, lifestyle decisions of those that live in that area, as well as the median age range and median income. We felt this was helpful because income is sometimes influenced by education levels, and so that helped us as well when we were working on writing our questions, making sure that they were written in a way that those that were participating could understand. Next, we wanted to evaluate some of our acknowledged weaknesses. So from the beginning, we thought there may be some concerns with surveying certain people just because it was a coffee shop that we might have daily repeat customers. So we wanted to make sure that there could be a chance that we were asking people to complete a survey more than once. And there were also the likelihood, because it was a coffee shop, that customers would always purchase the same product. And we also considered that demographic information may or may not be relevant to this specific study, so there may be a weakness in us not collecting that, as well as this area has a drive-through location as well as 2 exits, so there may be the chance that we would miss some participants due to them going through the drive-through and not seeing the digital menu board, as well as exiting one of the 2 exits if there was only one researcher present. So to establish the variables going in, we established the independent variable as the digital menu board and whether or not the customers notice the board. So basically, it's not specifically the digital menu board, it's just whether or not the customers notice the board. And that was a way that we could divide our data into 2 subgroups based on whether they saw the board or whether they didn't, because we assumed that if they did, it would alter their experience. And then the dependent variable itself is the digital menu board. So to execute this study, we had some procedures set up, and that was there was a 2-week data collection period, and we had set up a digital menu board on the far right at point of purchase that had rotating imagery every 10 to 15 seconds. And the researchers, there were 3 total in our group that collected data, and they intercepted the respondents after ordering either at a table or at the exits. And we asked them to participate in a self-administered quantitative study. The only interaction for the most part that the researchers had with the participants was by telling them what the project was and then asking them to complete a study. And so these are the research questions that we wanted to answer with our instrument. And then lastly, our instrument was a self-administered questionnaire. It included informed consent as well as 6 questions. And so after we administered more than 50 surveys, we took that information together and then moved on to the findings section.
This is Tim. I will take you through the findings section. So the focus of this was look at the digital menu board's influence on 3 factors: the ability to capture customer attention, the ability to influence customer experience, and the ability to influence purchase decisions. To assess the DMB's relationship to customers at the point of sale, the first question we asked is, did you notice the digital menu board? So 74% of the respondents said they did notice the digital menu boards. And we posed a follow-up question, if you noticed it, did you notice something specifically? And then if you noticed something specifically, we asked them to write down what it was. So 30% said yes, they noticed something specifically. And then within that subgroup of the 30% who had noticed something specifically, 56% described movement, color, or brightness. So to try to get insight into the way the digital menu boards influence the customer experience, we asked them straight up, what was the most influential component of your purchase decision today? And we got an overwhelming majority that had said previous experience, 62%. But we'd get a smaller group, 17%, that said the digital menu board was the primary influence in that customer's in the purchasing experience. So when we look at this group of the 17% and break that out with a couple questions later in the survey, that 56% did agree that the digital menu board influenced their purchase, and 33% agreed the digital menu board influenced their purchase experience. On the total survey population, 47% said that the DMB did not increase their purchase experience at all. And then trying to find out how the DMB digital menu board affects the purchase decisions, we asked the question of how the digital menu board influenced the purchasing decision. Of course, we have 57% that said it didn't do anything. But 26% said they used it to see available products, 8 to check prices, and 4 to check for specials and discounts. But among people that counted the digital menu board as the most influential component of their purchase decision, 67% used it to see available products. So that concludes the findings section. Thanks.
As my group members have previously discussed, the purpose of this research was to examine perceived effectiveness of digital menu boards on customer experience at point of sale in a locally owned retail atmosphere. The goal was to answer the following questions. Do digital menu boards influence customer experience? How do digital menu boards affect the purchasing decisions made at the point of sale? And finally, do digital menu boards capture the attention of consumers at the point of sale? The findings of this study show that the digital menu board has little influence on purchasing behavior. As Tim discussed, of 53 respondents, 74% noticed the digital menu board during their purchase, but 60% based their purchase on prior experiences, making the prior experiences more influential than the digital menu board. The findings support this, with only 26% of respondents agreeing that the digital menu board influenced their purchasing decision, and only 19% agreeing that it increased their purchasing experience, while only 17% of respondents noted that the digital menu board captured their attention with either movement, color, and brightness. The largest differentiation between our research and previously conducted research is the relationship between the digital menu boards and purchasing decisions. The results of this study are contrary to previous research conducted by the Point of Purchase Association International, which found that more than 70% of purchasing decisions are made in-store at the point of purchase. We found this not to be the case. Nearly 2/3 of respondents had made their purchasing decision primarily based on their past experience. These inconsistencies lead to the conclusion that more targeted research has to be done in a variety of retail environments to get accurate data that reflects the true effect of digital menu boards on consumer behavior based on the type of environment they are in. We found several strengths and limitations of our study. The strengths include that the study included a consistent message of all respondents. There was a 0% attrition rate out of the 53 respondents, so all of the studies that began were completed, and the study was conducted in the field rather than in a lab setting, so it reflected a real-life environment. The limitations of this study included the location of the coffee shop that lends itself to drive-through customers rather than walk-ins. Less walk-in traffic may account for the high number of repeat customers who base their purchase off their previous experience. The study was not set up to accommodate drive-through customers. Another limitation of the study may be the digital menu boards themselves. The displays in this research were consumer-grade televisions, dimmer and less clear than commercial-grade screens. The distance from the purchasing counter and the height of the digital menu boards is greater than the industry standards, resulting in less readable text and an overall smaller appearance. Static images on the digital menu board rotated at 15-second intervals, not long enough and too subtle for some customers to notice. In order to determine the reliability of this study, a test, retest, or alternative form of testing the extent to which the study consistently provides the same results is necessary. The study is valid because there is internal consistency in responses, but the results of the study do not correspond with previous studies. The set of questions asked during the study are reliable because over half of respondents said that the digital menu board had no effect on their purchasing behavior, and that it had no effect on enhancing the atmosphere and increasing the purchasing experience. For future studies testing the effectiveness of digital menu boards on consumer behavior would benefit from further investigating respondents' previous experience with digital menu boards, particularly for respondents who state that previous experience rather than the digital menu board was the most influential factor in their purchasing decision. Recommendations for future studies include manipulate the stimuli, add audio and/or video to the digital menu boards to gain insight to which stimuli is most effective in gaining customer attention and message retention. Also, increase question clarity, particularly when investigating customer experience. The wording we used, increased my purchasing experience, was questioned by several respondents who were unclear of its meaning, unsure if it meant that they had purchased more than normal or if it actually enhanced their experience. The most significant finding in the research conducted was contrasting to the existing research to the primary research findings discussed in this study. Previous research consistently indicated that the digital menu boards have a significant influence on consumer purchasing decisions based at the point of sale. However, there was no study done with a high percentage of repeat customers in the food and beverage industry. Therefore, it is debatable whether the food and beverage industry is exempt from the existing research findings based on previous experience and repeat habits. In this retail setting, the majority of consumers made their purchasing decision based on past experiences and prior to entering the store. This knowledge may offer insight into those creating content who look for new ways to optimize the content to most effectively engage and influence the consumers, and to avoid the consumer's tendency to ignore the stimuli and perceive it as an experimental noise. This concludes our presentation. This concludes our research presentation on digital signage and consumer behavior. We look forward to hearing your responses. Thank you.